So this is going to be kind of part 1.5 of my making a Mandalorian helmet project. So if you kind of remember from the last one, I mentioned needing a place to sand the helmet once I put some Bondo on it. Because I live in an apartment. I don't have access to any kind of workshop on the cheap to be able to sand without things going anywhere. So my plan is I got this storage tub. I'm just gonna kind of cut it up and turn it into a bit of a sanding box. Let me explain to you what my plan is before we start. So my plan is to basically turn this into kind of a clear top box. I don't know what to describe it as, but I've got this clear sheet of polycarbonate, really thin sheet I got from Home Depot, and I'm going to cut a square out of the top up here, and then tape it down so that I can see what's inside from the top while sanding. And then on the sides, I've got what will be 2 handholes to cut out. I used the inner circle of a roll of tape that I have to make it, because my hand will fit through that and I can expand it as needed. So that's on the front of this, and then that way I can reach in, sand without having to keep the top off and getting dust everywhere. And then on the side, I have what will be the vacuum port, so I'll stick my end of my vacuum or shop vac in here to suck out any dust that gets caught up. And then over here is going to be a really tiny hole for sliding the power cord of my orbital sander in and out. So if I don't want to sand by hand, because if I use this down the line on something else, something that's too big to sand by hand, I can just kind of wrap the power cord through and sand it inside with that. I also have some weather stripping that will go on the bottom side of the lid, so that this gets a nice good seal, but I can still take it off as opposed to using something like epoxy. And I will take all of the holes that I cut, and if I don't 3D print something down the line, which will probably come later, for an immediate use, I will kind of wrap them in duct tape to give them kind of like a flap almost, so that way my hand and hoses and stuff can go in and out, but dust shouldn't, so long as there's a good seal around everything that goes in. So I've already pre-drilled some pilot holes for my jigsaw to go through. So I'm going to start cutting, and we'll cut out the inner square for the acrylic polycarbonate, and then we'll tape it on. We'll go from there, and it'll just be one nice time lapse. So yeah, let's get cutting. So, a few things I want to note. First and foremost, I only got the top hole cut. Turns out the battery pack on my jigsaw is defective. I thought it was dead, tried to charge it, error lights lit up. So I got about 3/4 of the way cutting it, and then it just kind of stopped, and I can't get it to charge because I guess it's defective. So I cut the rest of this by hand with a handsaw. So I'm not entirely sure how to proceed with the handholds. I'm okay. I would be okay if I could just get the handholds and this top part cut, but that's not how this worked out. So for now, I'm going to get the top plastic sheet taped into place, and I guess we'll line the top lid with some weather stripping tape, and we'll proceed from there. So this is the solution I came up with for these holes since my jigsaw decided to stop working. This stuff is actually fairly, I guess for a storage bin it's pretty thick, but I took a really sharp utility knife and just plunged it in, and then kind of cut out a corner or a quadrant just bit by bit, and then cut it out. And I did that twice, and now I have a hand hole. There's a box in here, sorry. And I have holes that my hands will fit in. And then I tried making these flaps out of duct tape that they would like collapse back in and help keep some of the dust and fumes out when I'm not using it. it didn't really work out well, but at least it adds some kind of protection against sharp edges. So that's what I did here. And yeah, I think it turned out really well for that part. I did not cut my holes for a vacuum or a power cord yet. The box works really well. I think that for sanding the plastic, it did really well, but I've tried sanding the, it's the first round of the Bondo body filler that I'm using. Tried sanding this, dust everywhere, and that stuff, it's not what you want to inhale. So I'm just using this, gonna keep this box as just kind of like a sanding bin, but for the purposes of this project with Bondo, this is getting sanded outside for health and safety reasons. So thank you for watching this little thing. Let me know if you have any questions or improvements, because this is not hopefully my final one. So thank you for watching, and come by next time.